1, 2, 1, 2. Microphone on, camera on, boom. Hello everybody, welcome to the podcast, welcome to Politics, Culture, and some other shit. Happy Sunday, the, 21st of May. Where's my thing from my glasses? Can't find it, there it is. Hope you're well, I'm going to bang out this podcast and then I'm going to go round to the pub, have a few pints. Oh yes, happy Sunday indeed. Yeah, how are you? Hope you are all well. What are we going to talk about? Well, first of all, if you are into Patreons, things like that, you can head over to mine, lend me your support for £1 a month. That's it. There's one tier, nothing else. And if not, you can listen to this podcast anyway. It's all good. And head over to my YouTube, and we've got a Twitter and an Instagram, and God fucking love me, I've got a TikTok. I don't know why I bothered opening that. I don't have time to do these podcasts, never mind edit them all up into 30-second fucking segments so that the TikTok generation can fucking use their ever decreasing attention span to absorb socialist propaganda. Just going to pull my mic up a little bit. There we go. That's a little better. Yeah, so hope you're well. What are we going to talk about today? So, we're going to talk about the local elections, Sinn Fein. I'm not going to go too mad into it. Maybe a couple of wee things. Real quick one. We know that Sinn Fein had a massive success. We're going to take a little look at the numbers and one or two other things. Hopefully try and get a little bit of a unique insight into it. We'll take a little bit of a look at what an article I read about the Ukraine situation. It's very interesting, and we're going to take a look at GPT. Do you know what this is? I'm sure you do. It's the talk of the town at the minute. Really good stuff. I should say, very worrying stuff. Actually, do you know what? I just reminded myself I need to find an article regarding that. Do you know that the guy that invented it quit? So I meant to. Inventor of ChatGPT quits. This was a post. There we go. The godfather of AI quits. There we go. So we've got that article. I'll throw it up into. Oh no. I've reached my limit of free articles. What is that in? New York Times. Don't care. Independent. Let me see. There we go. Okay. I'll bookmark that in my thing. And then I'll be able to read that for you. Good. Okay. So we're all done. And yeah, so just pull that down. My mic's just peaking a smidge, so I'm going to sort that out. So let's do this. Yeah, so hope you are all well. I had a couple of great gigs recently. Last night I was up at the Dunkirk Arts Centre, and I watched, I'll put my big screen on. I watched Lumiere. Lumiere is a trad band, traditional, and the guitar player in the band is actually married to my cousin, Donna Hennessy, and my cousin he's married to my cousin Laura Cure, who plays in fiddle in my band, my solo project thing, and they do songs, just so it's two girls singing and Donna playing guitar, and it's absolutely amazing. The harmonies and the songs was just spectacular. Hairs in the back of your neck. It was a real absolute treat. Perfect venue for it. You could hear a pin drop. Beautiful, respectful evening of real culture by super talented individuals. Now contrast that with the night before, where we went, myself and Janie and our friends MT and Phil Woolsey. You'll know Phil from this podcast. I've interviewed him on this, friend of the show and all that. And he's active joyrider and current Papa Luna alumni. Phil and MT, myself and Jeannie, we went to see Langham in Mandela Hall. First time I've been to the new Mandela Hall. Have to say, not impressed. The old Mandela Hall had much more character. This place, although probably a very modern and facility, it just reminds me of every other big square box that I've been in and played in myself across Europe. There's nothing special about these places. They're very nice, but whatever. Yeah, just the old Mandela Hall had a bit of class, but that's not the point. It was sold out gig. The amount of people talking at that gig really fucking loudly. For those of you that don't know Langham, first of all, you should go and check them out. They're absolutely spectacularly good. I love them. But they go real quiet. So it's, at certain points it'll just be the girl, I can't remember her name, just her singing on her own. And then it's very dynamic. That's the word. It can go real soft and low and quiet, and then go real big. Like the bass rumble with, literally shaking the walls. It's gorgeous. And these fuckers could be heard talking over the lot of it. It was unbelievable. Really, really bad. So I actually put a tweet up on the Bonneville's Twitter when I got home. I was in that bad a mood about it, or the next day. And by all accounts, I wasn't the only one. It kind of got a lot of responses, and everyone was saying the same thing. And it was weird. Why the fuck do you go to a gig? Why do you buy a ticket to go to a gig? There was a fella standing behind me, and I don't know if he was on drugs or hadn't taken his drugs, but he literally didn't shut the fuck up the entire gig. I'm not joking. I'm not saying for parts of it, or the entire gig, he never stopped. And I looked around and he was shouting into his mate's ear, and his mate was just standing there. I don't think he replied them once. Sounds like somebody was on a bit of the old marching powder or something. But nonetheless, it was awful. And the band were fantastic. They were wonderful and gracious, and they were super talented. And it really pissed me off, boiled my piss, as they say, because I had held off listening to the new Langham album. I hadn't even bought it. I actually bought it on the merch stand at the gig, which is the best way to buy an album, by the way, if you ever are going to do that, because it means that's where the band get most of the money from. But the biggest cut of the money. So I'd held off buying the record and listening to it. I wanted to hear the new songs for the first time in that room, in that live venue. And they were great. They were beautiful, but it completely ruined it for me. The people talking were that bad. They were that distracting, and it just is awful. And apparently Belfast is getting worse for it. And when I contrast that last night with when we went to see Lumiere in the Dunkirk Arts, it was unbelievable, and we all deserved better. And I think they should maybe have done a sit-down gig in the Mandela, done 2 nights in the Mandela, rather than that stand-up in that room, because it was really, really, really bad. I can't stress enough how bad it was. But yeah, so there we go. Don't go to gigs, especially acoustic gigs, and talk. Please, just shut the fuck up is what needs to happen. Right. Onwards. As you know, Northern Ireland election. Where are we now? I'll get me devices up here for you. Northern Ireland elections. Northern Ireland Council elections were taking place. Did you vote? If you voted, did the people you vote for win? Let's take a look at Twitter here. What does Twitter say? The final results: local elections 23. Sinn Fein topped the poll with 144 councillors returned versus the DUP's 122. Previously the biggest party, of course, as we know. Alliance 67, UUP 54, SDLP 39, others 36. What that represents is, obviously, as you know, Sinn Féin have become the biggest party in the local elections and the assembly elections. And it now means that nationalists now hold... There are more nationalist seats in the House of Parliament even than there are unionists. And it represents a drop in the vote, sure, for unionism, which for me is... for us all is telling, isn't it? You know, unionism has obfuscated and sat in its hands and done literally nothing for God knows how long now, just relying on handouts from Westminster. And yeah, it's not good enough, and the people have spoken. I think there's a bit of that going on now. So on this, there's a funny one here. Dr. Harold News says Leo Varadkar says the DUP being overtaken by Sinn Féin up north confirms Fine Gael's position as Ireland's largest unionist party. That's funny. That's good. Caitlin McCotter says there's a map there of the north. The north was designed so that we could never be in charge, so that unionism would always be in the lead. Well, look now. Sinn Féin, the largest party in both the council and assembly, there is no more no-go areas for Sinn Féin. We are watching history in the making. No more Orange State. So Caitlin McCotter is Aranocht May. I'm Irish. Sinn Féin activist, Ulster University graduate, etc., etc. Mark Simpson. With all 462 seats filled, this is at 12:05 a.m. the new political landscape, and he confirms those results, etc., etc. Ty Hickey says it's sad the establishment media in the south is so poisoned by the resentment of Sinn Féin they can't acknowledge, for dare I say celebrate, these momentous occasions for Northern Nationalist radio silence. Of this, Mark Simpson of the BBC, of the 60 seats at Belfast City Hall, only 17 are now held by unionists. That is amazing, isn't it? Wow. That is absolutely amazing. And there's Amanda Ferguson confirming again those numbers. She's class. I'd love to interview her. I wonder could I do that. Yeah. The Irish News Sinn Féin Titans grip at City Hall. So there you go. It's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. So, over on YouTube, now we'll switch over to YouTube. Now this was fantastic. We're going to have a bit of a laugh here. So Danny Kennedy of the UUP. So he goes on to with Mark Simpson's show, isn't it? So we're going to play this wee video here, and we're going to have a bit of a comment on it. So you can see by the headline there, this is on the Slugger O'Toole's YouTube page. UUP Danny Kennedy complains about Sinn Féin running too many candidates and not giving the UUP a chance. It's so fucking funny. And he didn't, Andy. He didn't do that. He fucking did. Check this out. This is hilarious.
Was up this morning till 6:30 in Newry at the Count, where the Slave Gullion, after a long, slow day, was finally determined. And Sinn Féin had gone for 6 out of the 7. Now, in PR terms, 6 out of 7 is almost a miracle, right? But they had made a really serious attempt, and that would have led to the defeat of the sole unionist representative in Newry and Mourne. And Mary Lou arrived yesterday at the Count in Newry with all the attendant fanfare and the manufactured applause and
well, you don't know if it's manufactured or not.
And I was there.
So what? So whatever it is.
It's manufactured applause, Danny.
Well,
I mean, applause is applause.
Well, it creates an atmosphere. So anyway, I had a perfectly civilised chat with Mary Lou and pointed out to her respectfully that if Sinn Féin did what they intended to do, there would be no unionist representation from an area from just outside Mount Norris as far as Kilkeel, and from Newton Hamilton to the edge of River Island. And I asked
what was her response?
And I asked her a simple question:
Right.
What would that do for community relations? What would it even do for the branding of something called a new Ireland,
So
or an agreed Ireland?
Give you a chance.
No, I don't say.
So you have to understand what Danny Kennedy is saying here. He's so obviously you heard what he just said. He said that he wasn't forced into this nonsense. He's basically complaining Sinn Féin are too good at politics, too good at elections, and that they should step aside. Well, he gets asked. So let's.
Candidates. I mean, it's an election.
Yeah,
She ran candidate. She won votes.
And I understand
It's
that.
your problem, not her problem.
Well, it's everybody's problem when, had we been left, happily we weren't left. David Taylor won the seat successfely. And,
Right, so it's an academic point you're making.
But it's an important point in their overall objectives. And those objectives fail to recognise where unionists are in minority situations.
So whenever the Ulster Unionist Party ran Northern Ireland, was that a consideration, that we had to give nationalists a chance, and there would be a worry if we were in charge and a nationalist community didn't get a voice at the table? I mean, come on, that was never a consideration, was it?
Look, try and keep up to date, Mark.
Well, what did you think, Danny, about Paul Colin get Mike?
I really don't know the point that you're making, and I don't know what keep up to date means.
Is it not the case that really unionists are going to have to expand outside of their base and get votes from nationalists in those areas to try and gain and go across the divide, as opposed to thinking that Republicans should shrink themselves to accommodate unionism? I mean, you know my opinions on the union, but
yes.
I don't think a new Ireland means that they can't expand, that they can't campaign for votes.
But a new Ireland on the basis of sweeping every other representation away, it doesn't quite cut it when it comes to community relations.
But you began this conversation by saying the Ulster Unionist Party had a decent result and wasn't being swept away. Now you're saying you're worried it is being swept away.
No, I'm saying thanks to the good sense of the people of Slave Gullion, there continues to be unionist representation, which will not only serve the unionist tradition there, but also the wider community.
Enda, what do you think about what's been suggested? I mean, is there a point in what Danny Kennedy is saying? Do you understand the point that Danny's making?
Well, I do to a degree, but I don't know how it works its way through an election, because obviously when parties go to fight an election, they're going to maximise their vote, maximise their candidate and get their best return.
Well, there's another point as well that hasn't been brought up. We remember from the general election in the South, the last general election in the South, Sinn Féin would be in government now only for the fact that they didn't run enough candidates. They're not going to make that mistake again. That's not happening anymore. Remember that? So, that's beside the fact that what Danny Kennedy is hinting at here, or what he is complaining about, is fucking ridiculous, and it is beyond ridiculous. Unionism has painted itself into a corner for its lack of progression, lack of progressivism. It has moved away from the people. It has, since Brexit, the people can see clearly and getting ever increasingly clearer that unionism has nothing to offer the people of Ireland, north or south, or both. And as this little video shows, I'm going to play another video for you here, as the people in England know. Now, this is fantastic. This lady phoned into the Nolan show. Now, I don't watch the Nolan show. I genuinely think Nolan I'm not one for censoring people, but
Mary's calling us from Nottingham this morning.
Mary here, I don't listen to the Nolan show. I think he's awful. I think he is. I think he's literally a danger to our society. But this came up on my Twitter, and it was too fantastic to turn down. So Mary from England phones into the Nolan show, and basically, well, to quote her before I play the video, many of us over here are sick of you. Caller Mary in Nottingham says we should get rid of you and wants Great Britain to have a referendum in Northern Ireland remain the part of the UK. Never mind whether we get to have one. England might kick us out first if Mary got her way. Which, you know, fair play to you. Here we go. Let's have a listen.
Morning, Mary.
Good morning.
You're listening into this, and you're sick of what?
Well, I listen quite often, and I hear many of your callers speaking about rates, dentistry, hospitals, all the rest of it, education, and they sound as if they feel they're entitled to something. But do they realise how much they're subsidised by people, taxpayers, over here?
What do you mean?
I think you know what I mean.
I do, but I want you to spell it out.
No, you spell it out.
I know exactly what you're saying. You're talking about a sense of entitlement.
Yeah, they do sound entitled. To my ears, they sound entitled, as if we must subsidise them. Why?
Well, I think it's worth saying, Mary, it is worth pointing out that there are large parts of England, and I presume Scotland and Wales as well, which are also subsidised from the UK Exchequer. And it's just the nature of the game. And it isn't just this country that happens in. There are parts of every individual country you can go to which need help from the centre, and they get help from the centre. It's part of it belonging to the same country.
Put that in your pipe
but
and smoke
I
it, Mary.
also would like to know, I would love somebody to do a referendum over here to see if we want you.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us over here are sick of you.
Sorry, Mary.
The flag waving, the ranting and raving. We don't like it. We don't want
Mary,
it. I wish you would go away.
Mary, can I point out to you that you have no right to want us or not until the people of this country decide this place is...
Now, I'm going to interrupt Mary here. Unfortunately, she doesn't realise that people... I would like to know how many people in my country would like Northern Ireland to remain a part of the UK. She says, well, that question has been asked. So let's take a little look before we let Mary get her rocks off. Half of people in GB, this is an article from ITV News, half of people in GB don't care if or would like Northern Ireland to leave the UK, research says. A third of people in Great Britain would not mind if Northern Ireland leaving the UK, while another 17% would prefer if it left. A fifth believe it will no longer be a part of the Union in 10 years. Some 39% of those surveyed in England, Scotland and Wales think Northern Ireland breaking away from the UK and uniting with the Republic would not make much of a difference to the remaining three nations. I would argue would make absolutely none. Certainly not negative anyway. So it's interesting. It's interesting that Mary doesn't know that, sadly. I wish she did. Then she could have thrown that in. Let's get back to see what she says.
You may want to be in the UK, and I'm entitled to want.
Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, but you have no.
My opinion is as valid as yours.
We do not need the people of England and you in Nottingham to decide whether you want us or not until this country.
I will decide what I like.
Yeah, you can with your opinion, of course. Of course you can.
Nobody to me.
Yeah, that's fine. That is absolutely right. But what I'm talking about is not you
Mary.
Personally. I'm talking about England. England has no right to decide whether it wants Northern Ireland or not.
Right. We have an
This place is as much part of the UK as you are.
We should get rid of you, or I wish you would just go away. I wish, but I don't believe even the Republic would want you.
So do you think the same of people in other pockets of England? Would you say this to people in Manchester?
Please don't insult my intelligence by confusing England with your province.
Sorry, don't insult your intelligence by suggesting that Northern Ireland is as much that Belfast is as much part of the UK as Manchester or London. Are you for real?
Waving a flag and ranting and raving makes you British. It does not.
So what do you suggest
I suggest
is the
you
criteria
stand on your
for
own
which...
2 feet, and when people want something, speak to your own people in your own Stormont who overspent.
You do realise that people in Northern Ireland have paid the same tax rates as you have?
Have they indeed? Do they pay water rates? Do they pay the same rates as us? Do they pay the same university fees as us? I think not.
You're right.
Yep. So that's the opinion of, I would say, I mean, that poll said up to half. I would argue a bit more. I would think it would be a bit more. Every English person I talk to, I can think of them in my entire life. None of them understand why the fuck the north of Ireland is anything to do with them. Now, back to the election. So, this little video here, I need to... This is fucking hilarious. This is more to do with... You know what? Oh, I know what it is. Sorry, I have to click a wee thing here. There we go. So this is a little video. This is from the general election, and it's to do with the DUP. And I'll just get this back to the start. Now, this is a couple of years ago, of course, but we'll take a look at it, and it kind of sums up. And the thing of it, the reason I wanted you to play this is because it is delicious. It is absolutely delicious. But watching pomposity get its ass kicked, it really is. It's too good not to share. But the reason that I bring this up is, in the intervening number of years, the Ulster Unionism and the DUP specifically don't seem to have learnt a fucking damn thing. Nothing, not one thing. So let's have a wee listen to see what we're talking about.
I don't know if you have tears to shed, but you might consider shedding them for the DUP.
I think we should pause and reflect on just how disastrous the DUP have played their hand.
5 years of some of the absolute worst political leadership we've ever seen in any significant party.
The DUP are in a much, much weaker position.
The DUP fought for Brexit, then like a car, dog chasing a car, didn't know what to do with it when it finally got it. It had no plan for how it would resolve the border issues. It voted against Theresa May's deal, which would have minimised friction between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and then colluded to get rid of Theresa May, a very committed unionist who was mortified by the idea of an Irish sea border, to bring in this guy, like Boris Johnson, who sold them down the river.
They've managed to end up in a situation where they were key to the government of the country. They held the swing vote, and they've ended up with a Tory landslide. Yeah. They've ended up with their leader losing his seat to Sinn Fein. There's now more nationalist representation in Westminster than there is unionist. And they've got a new regulatory border in the Irish Sea. I
think the entire constitutional balance of power between Northern Ireland and Great Britain is changed. It's like a tooth which has suddenly become slightly wiggly. It's nothing dramatic, but it's a real moment.
I mean, it just seemed to me that everything that would imperil the DUP and everything they believed in was sort of evident pretty early on.
They were told at every stage along the journey that this was what happened. This is going to happen.
They could do the one thing that seems almost unthinkable. They could start to talk to Dublin about the future.
And what would that mean?
That would mean all sorts of things. We are beginning to see, because of this withdrawal agreement, at least for the next 4 years, an Irish economy, which is a united Irish economy, more or less inside the EU rules, while the rest of us are outside. That is something entirely new. And people in Northern Ireland, like people everywhere else, are also pragmatic, and they look at business and prosperity, and they ask themselves where their best interests may lie. This is not very good for unionism as a political cause.
I mean, it really is a spectacular own goal.
It will go down in history as one of the all-time worst-led political parties ever. It's extraordinary.
There we go. So that's what the English commentariat thought about the DUP, and we could sort of broaden that out to wider unionism, really, although the Ulster Unionists weren't just as bad as the DUP, but we saw there from the Danny Kennedy video how impoverished the Ulster Unionism Ulster Unionist Party has become that you know, the idea of expecting the leader of Sinn Féin to not run as many candidates in order to give the UUP a chance is fucking, frankly, pathetic. And I dare say that if Danny Kennedy was told 20 years ago or 10 years ago that he was going to make such a ridiculous statement, he wouldn't have believed it. He wouldn't have thought first of all, it was possible that the political landscape could have changed so drastically in that time, or that he would, quite, you know, to be kind, behave so pathetically by, you know, it's just nuts. It's just mental. So I changed the thing there I changed the Twitter search. I'll have a wee look here. So it's the DUP. So the DUP were trending in Ireland, as you would expect. So you can see there, I have Jamie Bryson blocked because I don't want to see anything to do with them. These people are fucking shite hawks, and I want nothing to do with them. Now, let me see. There is the move by Donaldson towards the alt DUP on Twitter says, the move by Donaldson towards the extremes in loyalism merely to protect DUP from losing a handful of seats to TUV comes at a very high cost to all in NI, with the Assembly being down being the main part of that. Transfer toxic TUV turned 3.9% FPs into only 1.9 seats. 1.9% of seats, 9 seats. So, you know, unionism isn't learning, and that's basically what that kind of represents. So there's, so the change from council share, first preference vote share, Sinn Féin, 30.9% is up 7.7%. Democratic Unionists down 0.8%. Alliance is up. Ulster Unionists are down, SDLP are down, TUV went up. So, you know, it's laughable, to be honest. So there we go. I'm going to shut that down. We're done. The elections, I don't know what more to say about it. I voted. I couldn't vote people before profit or anything like that, which I would like to around here, or at least transfer to them. We don't have any of those. We don't have Workers' Party or Green Party or anything in my borough. It's just the big four. And I voted for 2 of them. And I didn't vote for the others. So there we go. No, 3. I voted for 3. I voted for Sinn Féin, SDLP and Alliance. And I didn't vote for any Unionist Party. Obviously. I transferred down to Alliance. You get what I'm saying. And I don't know, a young fella in here called Owen Tennyson, I think he got in. I'm not sure. I haven't looked. So there we go. So, quick thing. We're going to hit this real quick before we move to the ChatGPT thing, which is fascinating. It's really, stay with me for this. You're going to have to check this out. It is genuinely mind-blowing. Not what it can do. It's another thing. We know how powerful it is. It's another thing that you may not know about. Dan, do you know what Dan is? Right, we're going to talk about Dan in a minute. So, here's an article. But before we do that, this is an article from Scotland Today. By, it doesn't give you his dude's name. Maybe at the bottom. Let me see. Ian Muir, Scottish-British photojournalist, researcher, pilot, drone operator. Why that is a fucking thing, I have no idea. Commentator. So there we go. So he wrote an article. Ukraine is not a symbol of freedom and liberal democracy. It is the corrupt, warmongering proxy of the US and the Western global elites. And that's what we've been saying here, and what I've been saying here since the very beginning. And as this war drags on, it's becoming increasingly obvious that it's just a money dump to empty the tax bases of Europe and America into the bank accounts of the greediest bastards that have ever lived. So, statements from the US and other Western officials, as well as pervasive accounts in the news media, have created a stunningly misleading image of Ukraine. There has been a concerted effort to portray the country as not only a victim of brutal Russian aggression, but as the plucky and noble bulwark of freedom and democracy. The conventional narrative would have us believe that Ukraine is an Eastern European version of Denmark. The promoters of that narrative contend that the ongoing war is not just a quarrel between Russia and Ukraine over Kiev's ambitions to join NATO and Moscow's territorial claims in Crimea and Donbass. No, they insist the war is part of a global struggle between democracy and authoritarianism. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is a leader worthy of nothing less than Winston Churchill's legacy. President Biden, in his March 26 remarks on the war, said the conflict was a battle between democracy and autocracy, between liberty and repression, between a rules-based order and one governed by brute force. This just makes me fucking sick even reading that, to be perfectly honest. A rules-based order, this is the unwritten rules. Nobody knows what they are, but if you fucking break them, by God, you'll find out. CNN's John Blake literally compared Ukraine's cause to America's in its Revolutionary War. He claimed Ukrainians are building their own monuments to democracy with their blood. Ugh. The world, he said, has been transfixed by their battle to repel the mighty Russian army and preserve the birth of democracy in their homeland. He added that the war in Ukraine isn't just a geopolitical struggle. It's a call to remember the courage of Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people, this is my opinion, are being put through a meat grinder in order to enrich the previously mentioned greediest bastards that have ever breathed. They don't give a fuck. And this is the thing that blows my fucking mind all the time. We've seen this before. What do I always say? Despite the evidence of our own eyes, we're still falling for this shit. The same people that led us into Iraq and destroyed Libya and Syria, and it's just the list goes on, endless, have brought us here. But we believe these people now, despite all the other times that they were wrong. This one they're right. All the others they're wrong, but this one they got it right. Do me a fucking favour. Right, I'm not going to read the whole article because it is long. This is we'll get, as is my want, I always get to the end, skip to the end. It is entirely appropriate to sympathise with Ukrainians, and I concur completely with that, who are experiencing terrible suffering as a result of the conflict brought about by decades of NATO expansion in Europe. But Ukraine is not a symbol of freedom and liberal democracy, and the war is not an existential struggle between democracy and authoritarianism. At best, Ukraine is a corrupt, quasi-democratic entity with troubling regressive policies. So there we go. Given the last paragraph, given that sobering reality, calls for Americans and Europeans to stand with Ukraine are misplaced. Preserving Ukraine's independence and territorial integrity most certainly is not worth the United States risking war with a nuclear-armed Russia, and certainly not worth the involvement of the collective NATO and EU member states being dragged along for the ride. Now, there we can see some Ukrainian Nazis, which don't exist apparently. They're not. Now, all these art institutions and publications were writing about Ukraine, the problem with Ukraine and its Nazi. It has a Nazi problem, a best significant one. They were all writing about that in 2016. Now, these guys, they don't exist, but they fucking do. And it is ironic that it was the Russians, the Soviet peoples, that saved the world from Nazis. Don't make no mistake, it was the Russians that did it. The Russians were the ones that defeated, obviously the Allies did in general, but it was the Russians that did the heavy lifting. They were the ones that lost the most people for various reasons, but nonetheless, and the fact that we're siding with Nazis is shameful. Well, I'm not. I'm sure you're not. But excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. But ultimately, none of this is working, and this is the issue. This is where we are right now. Russia has returned into the top 10 of wealthiest nations. It's now up to number 8 just this week, despite all the sanctions that are in place, despite the whole world being united against Russia. If you hear that on your mainstream media, that's if you watch mainstream media, that's what you're hearing. Now it's starting to turn. You notice it is starting to turn a little bit. Ukraine has been hollowed out, is what it is. The hedge funds and the banksters have all gone into Ukraine, and Zelensky has signed off on basically giving over all the running of Ukraine to the Black Rocks and these banks and hedge funds. So the neoliberals have gone in, and they're going to get further money to redevelop Ukraine, to repair what has been damaged. So the military-industrial complex got theirs. The oil and gas countries got theirs, or companies got their boosts from the blowing up of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, providing gas and oil to Europe, which used to be provided via Russia. So they got theirs, and now the Black Rocks and the hedge funds and the banksters are now going to go in and sweep up. And that's what's happened. That's all that this is. This is not about liberty and freedom and all these buzzwords that invented by marketers. This is about emptying money into their bank accounts. It's as simple as that. And the people who paid the biggest price are obviously the Ukrainians, because they have died, and they're over 100,000 now at this point. An entire generation of Ukrainian youth, Ukrainian manhood, as RFK referred to it there the other week when he announced his run for the American presidency, has been wiped out, put into a meat grinder. And I won't even get into it. It's very boring, actually. I put up a tweet. I retweeted this article, actually. I retweeted this article, and somebody from the north, an Irish guy, come at me really, really hard on Twitter, and I kind of so this article is the USA's Soviet-style president. We are in for 19 months of relentless, insultingly transparent spin, by way of which a patently incompetent man will be purveyed as a commander-in-chief for another 4 years. I wonder, actually, should I pull up the tweet? Yeah, do you know what? I think I'll do it. Give me a sec here. I'll see if I can find my the tweet on the way this guy come at me. And again, I don't like getting into arguments with people on in general. But when, let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So there's Dianne Feinstein. You know who she is? Unbelievable. Ben Collins there. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down my feed here to see if I can find. And then I want to go through, because you can't really go through point by point. He kind of made a lot of points, all of which were wrong. So I tried to show him a few things, just other videos and other commentators and articles. See, and he obviously clearly didn't read them, but just doubled down on his rampant stupidity. Where the fuck is it? Where's the thing going? It's going to be in here somewhere. Sorry. did I? Maybe I've. No. Can't. There's a guy got into an argument with me. People do get very arguey on Twitter. You know, as I said, I don't. I try to. Oh, here he is. Oh yeah, I've got him. Oh yeah. So here we go. This is interesting, isn't it? So, John Pilger, I put up this article. We faced 19. So it was John Pilger that article I was reading from, which I haven't finished. No, sorry, it was Patrick Lawrence. John Pilger retweeted it, and it was that opening paragraph was a reference to Joe Biden. Faced 19 months of fakery, hysteria, etc., etc. And then this guy, agent prosecutor, is a health worker, huge supporter of locally produced NI produce. Let's get Northern Ireland working for the people of Northern Ireland instead my posts or my personal opinions. So he replied to me and he said, yeah, you really need a diaper-wearing, thieving, narcissistic, traitorous sex pest in the White House. Otherwise, how's Putin going to defeat Ukraine? There's so much in there, you know. He's referencing Donald Trump. So first of all, he's implying that I'm a supporter of Donald Trump, which I am not. Right? He's a dick. But he said a diaper wearing. So let's first of all, Joe Biden shit himself in front of the Pope. Not making fun of the man's obviously decrepitude, but he is elderly and clearly not in charge of his mental faculties or his bodily functions. And this is not gossip. This happens to this guy, right? He should be retired. He should be just resting, but he's a puppet to whatever. So there's that. Thieving. So you're talking about Donald Trump again being thieving, but promoting Joe Biden, the Joe Biden crime family, the Biden family. It's unbelievable the amount of corruption involved. There was a Republican senator put forward I don't know if it was if it was a bill or whatever. It wasn't a bill, but it was. He wanted an investigation done into the Biden family, where they're getting the money from. His thing was, these people don't have any businesses, but they're worth millions upon millions upon millions. So Donald Trump, don't get me wrong, thieving, most likely. Biden, definitely. Narcissistic. Well, okay, I might give him that point. Donald Trump might be more narcissistic than Joe Biden. Joe Biden, so let's weigh it up. Donald Trump's got a weird haircut and a very peculiar tan. Joe Biden has his face stretched that's not even a bad photograph of him actually on the screen, but he looks like he's covered in cellophane. So narcissistic, fuck off. Traitorous sex pest. And this is the one as well. So we know that Donald Trump was had that recent court case in which he has to pay someone $5 million, I think it is. Now, it's very questionable, that whole thing. I've looked into it a little bit. The judge that made the prosecution is an establishment man. He's a club man through and through. He's the guy that put Stephen Donziger under house arrest for 2 years. If you don't know who that is, you need to go and look into him. An environmental campaigner, a very brave man. That judge is a corrupt individual beyond a doubt. When it comes to the sex pest stuff, remember the Me Too movement? Believe all women, Me Too, hashtag Me Too. Remember all that? Can you remember what ended that? Joe Biden got accused of being a sex pest by a woman called Tara Reid. And then all of a sudden, everyone, it wasn't believe anymore. It's now not all women are telling the truth. And it was Joe Biden that ended that. Not him personally. The whole thing ended when he got accused. And Tara Reid, who's a very credible individual, has never got her moment, but bravely spoke out. So that's why you can't reply to that on Twitter. There's too much there. You understand? So I said, that's some take. And then he come at me, he says, explain which bit is some take colluded with Putin over Ukraine. Now, right, we'll get to that. Attempted to overthrow an election, he says. Handed a £5 million fine for sexual assault. We dealt with that. Tried to hide hush payments to a porn star. He was fucking behind his wife's back, hiding classified documents in his home. So I kind of tried to a little bit. It's again, I don't really want to get into this, but I said Russiagate was a hoax invented by the DNC to support the Clinton 26 campaign. So that's the accusations that he colluded with Putin. Now that was reinforced this week by an investigation into the FBI and the whole Russiagate claim. And Donald Trump has been completely exonerated of anything to do with Russiagate. But these people are still, they're fucking lunatics. They're still out there. Biden had documents in his home also, which had to be taken by the FBI, which is true. Hunter, apparently they all do it, all the presidents, they take these documents and whatever. The Hunter Biden laptop is now admitted to be real, plus an $80,000 no-show job at Ukrainian gas company Burisma, which is true. The Hunter Biden laptop is now admitted. Now, this is the bit. Save us the bills. He's very aggressive. The fact you support a clown, I don't support anybody in this. I would vote for none of them. None of the above is who would get my vote in America. The fact you support a clown who tried to I'm going to give him, I think he says overthrow his country, tells us everything we need to know about me, I'm assuming, including your prurient interest in Hunter's dick pics. Now fuck off and stop boring me, he says. I sent him a Glenn Greenwald video. Did I? Oh, no, I did. Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, I did. I did. Yeah, so I had sent him a Glenn Greenwald video. There's it there. The Durham report obliterates the FBI for the Russiagate thing. So I asked him, did he watch it? And he didn't reply. In which Glenn Greenwald would have gone through it point by point, explaining how the whole Russiagate thing and the Hunter Biden laptop thing, all that. Now, I have absolutely, just to clarify, I have absolutely no interest in Hunter Biden's dick pics. And I couldn't care less if him or anybody else, what they do with the photographs of their PP, as long as everybody involved wants to see it. And this is that. It's weird, but that sounds like the most sort of salacious thing that he's throwing about. Not Hunter Biden, this guy, agent prosecutor. But it's not because he had taken pictures of himself and it was found on his laptop. The point is it was weaponized against Trump. Whenever the laptop appeared in the press, the Clinton campaign then accused Donald Trump and Russia of planting the laptop to distract from the contents of the laptop, which was just salacious stuff. I think there was some extra, I'm not actually 100% sure, but I think there was some relevant stuff on the laptop, dangerous sort of documentation. But nonetheless, it wasn't because he took pictures of his dick. It was because the laptop was weaponized against a presidential candidate, which is high treason by a member of the security state, none other than the actual FBI, who were working against a legitimate presidential candidate. Everything that this fucking dickhead says is not true. None of it. It's all lies. And he still believes it. We know about we know that the FBI, according to the report that was released this week, everything, literally everything that was thrown at Donald Trump in 2016 and onwards, referred to as Russiagate now, everything that comes under the umbrella of Russiagate, was all a lie. It was all made up. This investigation that you heard about Donald Trump getting pissed on by hookers. You heard about Donald Trump being basically acting as an agent or a spy of the Kremlin. You heard about him being a corrupt criminal. You heard about all this stuff. You haven't heard about this report. This report exonerates him completely. Completely. People are still throwing Russiagate about. Now, I reiterate, I don't support Donald Trump. Donald Trump's an asshole. I knew Donald, and if you want to check my podcast from years ago, I knew Donald Trump was an asshole before he ran for president. I read a book about the man, written by builders who were bankrupted by him because he wouldn't pay them. I knew he was a dick back then. So I don't need to be told that what was this guy call me? Now fuck off and stuff. He says Inc. Tells us everything we need to know about you. You're a dickhead. You don't know what you're talking about. And despite the fact that you're presented with the evidence that everything you've just said and accused me of is a lie manufactured by the security state in order to rig an election, you still won't accept the truth that's in front of you. And this is where we are. This is back to this Ukraine thing. We still won't, despite the evidence of our own eyes, we still fall for this shit. Well, I don't. You do. This guy does. And you kind of go, well, is it his fault? At this point, it is your fault. If you still believe this, if you still fall for this Ukraine thing, this bullshit that's happening in Taiwan, the thing about Russia collapsing, the economy collapsing and all this, if you still fall for that today, yes, at this point, it's your fault. You're an asshole, and it's your fault. You need to wise the fuck up. Listen to who's telling you. Who's telling you these things, these things on the screen here? Who's telling you that? The same people as lying you into war after war after war. The same people, corrupt corporate interests that are undermining every structure of your own society. Everything, your healthcare system, your education system, your employment security, your actual human rights, which were fought hard for. These same people are telling you everything this guy, every single thing this guy has said is a lie. Every single thing this guy has said has been disproven time and time and time again. By the way, not just by this investigation that the report that was published this week. Just forgot the name of it. Let me just see if I can. Oh God. No. I can't believe I forgot the name of it. Oh, is that there? The Durham report. The Durham report obliterates the FBI for the Russiagate misinformation. By the way, I'm not saying I've watched that Glenn Greenwald video where he breaks it down. I'm not saying that they go through it and you get this usual mealy mouth sort of language stuff. Not talking about that. Literally obliterates the FBI. No one's going to pay a price for this. Don't go there. Nothing's going to happen here. Literally, completely exonerates, and everything that this guy said was poured into his ear by the same people in the FBI, in the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, all the American security state invented everything that this guy is saying. And he has taken it in, and he is now spewing it back out. And when presented with the evidence, he won't even take the time to listen to it. Clearly he hasn't, because if he had watched that Glenn Greenwald report, he wouldn't be able to come back. He'd come back to me and apologise. There you go. I got completely off topic there. So we're going to do, what have I got left? Oh shit, I'm into an hour. Right, I'm not going to do it. We're going to call it. I'm going to do the Chat GPT separately. We're going to do it separately. So if you want to watch the Chat GPT, you're going to have to come back. I'm going to do it during the week. Real quick, right? So throw the window up there for you so you can see it. There's Chat GPT. Do you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. No, not going to do it. I'm going to call it. This podcast has been going for an hour. That's enough. I don't want to start doing these 2-hour things anymore because it just goes. Who the fuck listens to a 2-hour podcast? So there we go. We're done. I'll do another quick podcast maybe tomorrow on ChatGPT, or maybe Wednesday, or maybe live stream. Maybe do a live stream. There we go. Why don't we do that? We'll do a live stream during the week, and then we can play with ChatGPT together. You can come and join in and tell me what to put into it. That's good, isn't it? Let's do that. Wednesday night, we're going to do a live ChatGPT special. So listen, thanks a million, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you want to, you can go watch this on YouTube. I'm going to go around to Woodville now and have a few pints Sunday afternoon, as is my want. You can follow the podcast and what I do on it on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. Fucking hell, why I did that, I have no idea. Well, yeah, I know, but we'll get there. And if you want to, you can lend me your support for as little as £1 a month on Patreon, where you get early access and first access to all these. I upload all those and all the audio and the video up there first. And every now and again, I throw up a wee freebie for you guys. Like my last gig, I give you 50% discount on tickets, and a lot of you used them up. It was good. It was great to see. So it's things like that. So yeah. So there we go. We're done. We're done. We're done. Going to shut her down. Thanks everybody, have a good Sunday, and we will see you on Wednesday. Don't forget, Wednesday we're going to do a live stream on YouTube. We'll do it at 7 o'clock. I'm going to announce it officially. It's officially announced. That's it, announced. So I'm fucking tied to it regardless. So there we go. All the best. Love y'all. Bye.